My mother was in a industrial town in the Midwest when she grew up. During World War II, she had stuff thrown at her and things like that, and they were, looked like everybody else. But after the war, of course, they were, they're big buddies. They were always good citizens. They were always law-abiding, hard-working people. But I really think our biggest ace card here to play is the freedom, our background, and our history of tolerance. And some people may call that Christian ethics. So be it. But that doesn't mean that it's just for a small group of people. These people, no matter where they're from, rolling up their sleeves, getting with the program, and helping with this is going to be our answer. I couldn't agree with you more. The last thing we need is trouble. That's what they want. That'll give more excuses to go in and hurt people, destroy infrastructure, and all kinds of things we don't want. We have lots of countries overseas right now that are still recovering from war and having a bad time.
Absolutely. The globalists use our money and our blood to go wreck countries and then put worse people in, and then our tax money pays to rebuild it with strings attached with new ruling classes dominating and oppressing those countries. And I don't want that done in my name. Key information and your calls and a ton of news and a special guest all coming up. We're going right to your calls on the other side. I'm Alex Jones. Coming up at the bottom of the next hour, I am going to premiere to everybody the new cover of the inaugural edition of the InfoWars newspaper / magazine. It's really a newspaper, but it's magazine format. That's white, high-quality magazine type paper. But it's the information that is important and powerful. Paul Watson in the next 20 minutes or so is going to post up at Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com the article that I put together, the opening letter from the publisher of why we're putting this publication out and breaking down the fact that we're dealing with a lot of new forms of censorship in the internet. And this is our answer to the internet kill switch. And I'm going to break that down at the bottom of the next hour. We have a guest coming on who's written a very powerful book, Fool Me Twice. Aaron Klein breaks down from Obama's own think tanks what they're planning if he gets in. Of course, that'll tell us what Romney's planning, too, because they're all run by the same people. But this is what Obama is planning if he gets back into office. Then I had, of course, Webster Tarpley on last week for an hour and 45 minutes on the nightly news to break down what he thinks will happen if Romney gets in. And, Tarpley was a big enemy of Obama, saying he was a total globalist, accurately predicting what Obama did do. He was saying last week that it's Romney who's going to get in now, and that look out because everybody's going to go to sleep and they're going to ram through their agenda. And sure enough, you saw Newsweek yesterday saying, hit the road. It actually said, but guys, if you pull that up, I'm going from memory. It said, hit the road, right? It said, it's time for a new president. Hit the road. It says, hit the road, Barack. Yeah. I mean, that's such a shocking headline. All the time I say stuff and it feels like a lie because it's so wild. I mean, all the time I think about talking about some of our accomplishments or something, and I go, I better not do that. It just sounds like a lie. You know what I mean? Well, it's the same thing with this. I'm like, did it really say hit the road, Barack Obama? And I'm like, guys, check that. And they pull it up and they go, yeah, that's how fast they are. Talk about quick draw in there on the internet. In fact, put it up on screen when you get a chance. If you're a radio listener and you hear me say put it on screen, this or that, all you have to do is go watch us at prisonplanet.tv or InfoWarsNews.com. And we've got streaming video for the 3-hour radio show. It really is a TV show, multimedia, and then the nightly news. Hit the road, Barack. Why we need a new president by Ferguson. So very, very incendiary type comments for Newsweek. I don't think I've ever seen Newsweek or Time, even with Republicans that they claim to hate, come out with something like that. I mean, this is incredible. Again, we're seeing all of these things that you don't normally see happening, telling you we're moving towards a flashpoint. And that happens throughout history, where more happens in just a year or two period than happened in the previous 20, 30. It's those flashpoints in history. And my gut, my intellect, my research, other researchers' intellect, your gut, I know most of my listeners are pretty concerned. Everybody can feel, kind of like mice know a day before a tornado comes, that something's coming. I mean, is it magnetic? Well, they've proven mice and fish and other animals have these little magnetic sensors in their brain, cells. That's how hummingbirds can fly to Connecticut and fly to Guatemala back. I was looking at a bird book this morning because I follow birds, and we've got some hummingbird feeders. I saw a hummingbird I hadn't seen before, so I looked it up, and it turns out it's a hummingbird that goes as far north as Wisconsin and then flies back to Guatemala. It hatches as a baby and knows where to fly to the same place and then fly back. Just amazing. And that's done with the magnetic field of the Earth. They've done tests where I'm digressing. If you just joined us, ladies and gentlemen, Netanyahu determined to attack Iran before U.S. elections, claims Israel's Channel 10. WorldNet Daily says when Israel strikes Iran in October. Let's get Joe Farah on. I know he has a lot of big sources there in D.C., and so I'd like to get Farah pop in for 30 minutes maybe next week, give us his breakdown on that. And we're going to be going over that. Also, war with Iran appears more imminent. New American, BBC, Obama warns Syria chemical weapons may spark U.S. action. And we've been saying for 3 weeks or so, a false flag, where al-Qaeda launches the chemical attack. They say Assad's done it, and then NATO has to attack. Well, that's what they're now saying, so look out. We're going to be breaking all of this down and more. Russia and China warn West against Syrian intervention. They're already sending in jihadis out of Turkey. We've got a bunch of other news here. Also, the nanny state is out of control. Cover this in the third hour. Cops interrogate family for allowing kids to play outside. Well, I mean, I've seen this with CPS all over the country. Children playing in fenced backyards. CPS comes and calls it neglect, even though the mother's watching them out of the window. Let me tell you something. When I was a kid, I ran around everywhere. And statistically, things were a little more dangerous than they were in the 50s, 60s, or 70s, but not as dangerous as they were in the 80s or 90s. I mean, this is just a joke. And then it's always the government that claims they're going to take your kids to keep them safe when they're the most dangerous group for your children to be in their clutches. And not just here, but in Russia and other places. The orphanages are veritable hell pits, but going to be getting into that. Russian woman kills elderly neighbor with her bra, Associated Press. The answer is obvious, ban bras. And I'm going to cover this, too, in the third hour. In fact, at the start of the third hour, I'll get into this. ADL implies Alex Jones inspiration behind Louisiana cop killings. And I'm going to have a message directly to the Anti-Defamation League coming up at 8 after in the third hour. Okay, let's go through calls now. Let's go to Randy in Ohio. Thanks for holding. What is your view on the geopolitical things happening? I mean, do you think we're on the edge of oblivion, or is everything going to be just fine?
Well, Alex, you look at it in the fact of, good talking to you today, by the way. You look at it in the fact of our intervention in Syria right now, and the dominoes are starting to fall. You look at Tunisia, you look at Egypt. Basically what we're doing is a big resource grab in order to move into Iran. So once that Syria falls, we can build a pipeline from northern Iraq into Syria so we can do shipping routes to the Mediterranean Sea. So if they do try to close down the Strait of Hormuz, we have a shipping route to circumvent that, which will allow us our access to Iran without interrupting shipping.
Yes, that's the grand chessboard, Zbigniew Brzezinski. But when we say we're paying for it, just like we paid back in the 70s and 80s to put in the big drilling rigs and oil pipelines, but 20% of the oil of Alaska is allowed to be shipped to the West Coast. The rest of it, per agreement, is shipped to Japan and China. So again, we go pay. It'd be one thing if we were going over there to steal the oil. Because I hear good old boys all the time go, hey, we need that oil. I'll admit it. We're going to come take your oil. You're lucky we don't glass parking lot you with some hydrogen bombs, boy. Well, I mean, here's the deal. The globalist hate good old boys even more than they hate Arabs. I mean, if you actually compared the average Muslim to a good old boy in, say, East Texas, they're a lot more similar than some, globalist, eugenicist, fake liberal. I mean, they want guns, they're into freedom, basic freedom. And again, I'm not even defending some of the Muslim sects out there. The point is that this isn't our empire. I always say, we're in Iraq, we're in Afghanistan. No, we're not. Our captured military under globalist control. It'd be like if Hitler took over France in 1941. If Hitler took over France and he had the Vichy French and the police, the military were already been paid off by him, so they just basically stood down. And then if Hitler would have sent French legions, which he actually did have some French battle groups, off to fight a war, it's not the French military off fighting the war. It's collaborators. So this is a banker globalist system, and we've got to get those definitions in our mind. It is not our military is not growing opium in Afghanistan. Our captured soldiers who are under mind control, cultural mind control, and who don't even know who they're fighting for, are over there growing the opium to ship it all over the world. I'm sorry, I'm ranting. Go ahead and make a point.
No, I agree with you, but I don't agree with the timeline of October. It's not going to be an October surprise because we have to secure Syria in order to secure the pipeline routes. So we're probably looking at an attack with Iran feasibly within the next year or two. It won't be this year, because we don't have Syria under control yet.
Well, that's right. They need to knock Syria out first, and that's why they wanted the Al-Qaeda to be able to have secured the job and get down to the important business of murdering all the Christians and Jews and minority Muslim groups, because the Peace Prize president said so, and it's so loving. But that's why they could attack and bombard Damascus with a peace bombardment like Libya any time now. Sounds like are you in the military?
I am not, no.
Well,
I've researched a lot about this and about pipelines and pipeline politics that are going on, that have been going on with our country, and people say the Cold War is over, but it's not over. I mean, we're in a resource grab, and we're in a race against China and Russia right now.
That's what I just said. We are not in a race, though. Look, they tell the generals. The generals get up there on C-SPAN at these Army and Navy and Marine Corps War College events. Air Force has events, and they say, we work for Wall Street. Wall Street's doing a great job dominating. We're getting resources for our people. Let me explain something. The globalists work to make sure we don't get our resources. We're already would be self-sufficient. Globalism is about not letting countries be self-sufficient. That's why they want that oil over there, so China and Iran and India and Russia can't get their own resources and develop themselves. The bankers don't want anybody developed, sir. They want everybody under their control. So I agree with what you're saying in generality, but I don't agree with you going back to the thing saying we're in a resource grab. The globalists strategically have moved to China. That's the real future. When they're done with us, China's going to be the center of the world, okay? And China has been positioned to get, I said 95%, because my mind automatically ratchets down. It's 98.7% of all rare earth minerals. Look it up. Guys, just type in 98% of rare earth minerals controlled or mined by China are dominated by China. Okay? That's what's going on here. Okay? And the globalists position themselves. Ted Turner, Marie Strong, the British royalty, the Rothschilds, all of them, the Rockefellers. Everything's in China now. China, 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 for a lot of different strategic reasons. They can leverage out anybody's competition with cheaper goods. They'll follow a one-child policy. They do what the globalists say. That's because our government put Mao Zedong in power in '49. That's been declassified. Okay, the communist Chinese are in bed with the globalists, who they then plan to double-cross what's left of the United States. I'm sorry, I appreciate your call. Very interesting points. I'm ranting here. Who's up next here? Jason in Pennsylvania. You're on the air. Go ahead.
General Jones, God bless you. How you doing today?
I'm all right, brother. What's on your mind?
Good. I got my rabble-rouser next to me here. I'm drinking it, and it's some good stuff, brother. I love it.
For those that don't know, tell them what a rabble-rouser is.
It's an Alex Jones special. It's a tangy tangerine, 1 scoop of tangy tangerine, and a